Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Puzzle Chambers. So I exited out of the game to come over here and see if high graphics actually changed anything. Honestly, it kind of doesn't look like it does. Noticeably, it does not fix the just weird amount of digital noise that I am seeing, just fuzziness over the entirety of the screen. It almost feels like it's trying to have kind of a squiggle vision feel to it, where you would see pixels kind of crawling and aliasing all over the place. If I was just seeing the noise in the blackness, then I would just kind of blame my monitor, but also I'm noticing that there's just like, it's not just pure RGB 000 colors in blackness. There's little dots here of slight brighter parts, unless again that's my monitor, and then there's just a lot of fuzziness, and I just don't get it. Notably, because I reset everything, there's the solution was not locked in here, but that's not going to be a real problem. Solving the game a second time does still move us downward in this puzzle. We're getting our bearings, and I guess this is the first instance of a break room and getting food. Finally, food. Oh no, a message. Oh no? Question mark? Why? Oh no. Dear guests, your puzzle solving progress is being tracked. When you reach the next break room, the person with the lowest score will be taken away and chopped into tiny pieces. Interesting. Stay sharp. Your host. What? What the hell? What is this place? Who could have guessed that our host was a psycho, huh? It's interesting. I think she might be hiding something. Although I think he's hiding something too. And I think he might be hiding something. Guys, I haven't really been too active in solving these puzzles. Yeah, you weren't helping very much. Got a little bit lazy. Well, the puzzles got really complicated. Explain that to the host. Must be a reasonable guy. Oh right. None of you have seen them yet. Seen who? Oh man. Our hosts. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the thing with the white masks. 2 days and 150 rooms before. So now we're getting a flashback with fuzziness. And this was our first achievement we've gotten. A few days after I woke up, I ran into two people. In one of the break rooms, we found a very similar message to this one. Stop freaking out, Sarah. It's just a stupid message. It said they're going to behead somebody. How can you not take it seriously? Look, this whole thing must just be some big joke. Just relax and enjoy the experience, girl. Wow, and it seems like we are just straight up playing, but it also seems like they are either setting us up for failure or they're going to push us to harder puzzles going forward. So I guess the question here is, if this was crossing over this spot, would it do anything? And I guess the answer is no. It will do something here. So we could do +4 to get to a 6. We could do a 1, and then we could do +4 to get a 13. But there aren't even just enough pieces to solve. So I'd have to do something more than that. This plus 4, and this plus 4 gets you to 10, and then that gets you to 6. But it does immediately bring about an interesting question as far as just who is playing. I assume we're now playing as this character, as far as it goes. I wonder how many puzzles they're going to have us do in a flashback. Seems like if it is a flashback and you're telling a story, you would have kind of jumped to the end. Yeah, there's... I don't know if there's a room here for all of this. This plus this would then require a break. This. It's one too many. Inevitably, I would think it would probably be something like this. But even that doesn't work. Interesting. When I move this without any fanfare, I feel like there probably should have been some more fanfare. At the very least, this should turn white like the other solutions. It is changing this plus 4 into now a plus 7, which can get me to an 8. And then this with this would get me to a plus 6. Which can get me to 8s. So the puzzle is getting more complicated, and I guess we really only had to solve 2 puzzles, but we've learned something new. Here we are, the break room. Anyone beheaded yet? Ha ha ha. So now we have some ghost-faced monster machete killers. Rip-offs, I imagine, of what is the movie series called? Camp Crystal Lake is where it normally takes place, and it's not Friday the 13th with Freddy Krueger, certainly, and it's not Halloween, although Halloween also would be a character to consider. All the machete killers do kind of blend together, particularly if you're just parroting them. I want to say maybe it is the Halloween series. I don't think it is. Jason Voorhees, I believe, is the name of the guy, so maybe that's as much as I can remember. Yeah, we'll just stick with Jason Voorhees. Now, immediately in this confusion, I wonder if these killers are people who either have solved all the puzzles or have failed and been given a chance to be the killers instead of the victims. Yeah. Waz waz waz. Waz 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 waza. They sound robotic and computer in that talking. What do you mean? Look, just let us. Let me go. Waza 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 waza. And they run off with him. They don't behead him on screen. Lord, wait, don't go in there. Laura. What the hell? So that's how she got separated. Sarah, you're a good storyteller for a mechanical engineer. You think I'm making this up? No, I'm giving you a sincere compliment. This guy sounds, at the very least, autistic. Look, I've heard about these white mask people, or things as some of them call them. They're just people, Sarah. Did you see them? Well, no. But I've heard more than one story about them. yeah, they're crazy and stuff, but the stories that people invent to explain who they are, they're insane, hee hee. I know they seem human at first sight, but their voice and body language are just, I don't know. You just have to see them yourself. What do you think they are? Like aliens or something? No. Well, I don't know. The way you described them, they sound kind of goofy. Trust me, Freddy. There won't be any goofy if you ever see them. There might be. You can't see the future. Wait, but Tim can. You can see the future? Oh yeah. Well, he's actually more like a fortune teller. Kinda useless. Hey, come on, man. So, it certainly might make sense that this is a collection of puzzles and experiments by some kind of artificial intelligence, perhaps to observe humans and be more human-like, perhaps to test out robotic infiltrators or cyborgs to be more human-like, perhaps just to solve puzzles for the pure enjoyment of solving puzzles. As the player of the game, I guess I'm just solving puzzles for the enjoyment of solving puzzles. Okay. I could see why having the characters not walk would be helpful, and why there is an option here. Let's go back to the main menu and just make sure that option works the way I think it does. And we've met pretty much everybody now except for this guy on the main screen. Okay, so now when I click, the character we're controlling does not walk around, but they do walk around when you go through a door, and I imagine that will stay the same. But yeah, I can see how just not having them walk around prevents you from misclicking into place and causing trouble. I did that, and I did that. That really wouldn't work. And 2. That's interesting. Why is it the case that this next to this does not make it -2 when we were doing it before, and pushing top downwards was modifying it? Is it that it just never can go below -1? Or is it a case that these can only modify other versions of these if there isn't an arrow pointing in there? Maybe the fact that this arrow is pointing it to this just clashes, because theoretically this one should just say -2 and this one should say -2 next to each other. That may just simplify things quite a bit, if that is how that's going to work. I guess the question to ask, though, what can we use to do the least amount of damage? Well, inherently we have to cover up the 5, or we have to do this and put that there. Which then lets us do that, and then that. And then we can solve it and move on. Yep. And I don't really have any major desire to draw this out, so let's just solve the puzzles. Interesting. So blank is 0, but then blank also seems to count for anything. So we're looking for zeros potentially. So let's do a little experiment here. This is -1, when it's not being blocked, it becomes -2, which would make that -3, which would still make that be -3, -2. But we can go into negatives in this instance. So this is perhaps one of our first moves in which we are actively going to be encouraged to try and make as many blanks as possible, which, since it's all just negative numbers here, means we've got to start by really targeting these here. Which probably means something along the lines of just doing a lot of this so nothing points at anything else. There we go. I'm using that one. Here's our last guy, which this may also symbolize the beginning and the ending of the story. Now, there is certainly some weirdness in that there are games that are much more visual novel style experiences that have puzzles in them, but there's just a heavy emphasis on characters and interactions. And so this game does feel interesting kind of in the middle of that. I'm thinking of the Nonary series in particular, 999 being the first game in that loosely affiliated series. Just it is first and foremost a visual novel with a ton of dialogue and a ton of characters interacting, and then alternate paths and storylines where the story goes in different directions based on your decisions. And you would expect, when you are introducing so many characters, that we may fall into that category more with this game, which might make a lot of sense because there's really not that far I think you can go with this as far as number puzzles before you start getting fairly irritating. If you're making me divide by anything above 5, it's gonna require some extra math on my part, since personally I never learned multiplication or division tables, and frankly memorizing that stuff would have just been a waste of brain space in modern times. Sure, you can do math much faster if you know 7's tables and 10's times tables. Well, 10's times tables are easy. 7's tables, 8 tables, 9 tables. But you're unlikely to need that unless you decide to go into being an accountant, and even then you'd have to be an accountant who is double checking paper books instead of computerized Excel sheets or accounting software some other ways. But yeah, I can't imagine we're gonna go too far here. We may get some weird symbols, but if we start seeing modulus or factorial or exponential things, then that would just be really crazy. Alright, let's read the story. Hello? How the hell is this not working? Who are you? I am me. And this puzzle is a real piece of work. It makes no sense. You need to use empty blocks to cover. I know, but I don't have enough empty blocks do I? Use subtraction to make some. Smart guy. No, I've tried all the possible combinations. Ugh. You can't just randomly try to combine them. Find some logical way of solving the puzzle. For instance, Always focus on positioning great operative blocks first to help me get the rest of the numbers right. You know what? Feel free to solve this one yourself, Nancy Drew. Oh, I'm Seth, by the way. Nice to meet all of you. Well, it immediately seems like they're setting him up to be the next one executed, which we would hope for a twist here. I still don't get the fuzziness though. It does seem just like an odd choice, and inherently it has to be a filter here. You don't get this kind of digital noise without either really screwing things up or intentionally having it be that way, and it just is not pretty. It's, I suspect, tiring to the eyes and in a puzzling game. Anything that's going to exhaust the eyes, even subconsciously, it's not going to be a great thing. So I'm guessing that these are set in stone, but you would suspect that there might be a black border or something around them to indicate that. Okay. So that would pretty much have to be a blank. That would have to be a blank. That would have to be a blank. Which would put that blank there. And that blank there. And that blank there. There. At least for me, it wasn't anything really complicated there. We are getting a shininess indicating that this has been modified, where this one and this one are not shining. So it is weird where they chose to indicate the changes happened versus where they chose not to. Seth, how long have you been here? Long enough. What do you do? What's with the officer? Are we playing 20 questions? You know he's a cop? Yep. How did you know that? I don't know. Maybe it was the smell of donuts on your breath. How did you know I'm a cop, Seth? Question marks. What? What do you think? That I'm one of the people behind this? How could you know that information? You could easily be one of the others. Others? Glasses. What do you think this is? Lost? I don't really appreciate the reference to the Lost TV series, considering how they were really just winging it after the first season, and it did not end really satisfactory, I think, to any of the people who enjoyed it. Fortunately for me, I never got into watching Lost much, but even at that, the few episodes I did see and the teases as far as the mysteries were intriguing at the beginning. You're coming with us. I was hoping you'd invite me, actually. It's boring as hell vagabonding alone here. So either this guy has some inside knowledge, or he is psychic, or something like that. Now the twist you might expect here is for you to be locked into that mentality of you needing a solution that involves only blanks. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure that's really the move here. That one, and that one's pretty concrete. It makes a lot of sense. But this one shoots you too high, and this one shoots you too low. And this one shoots you not high enough. And that's not a valid solution, right? So 3 in that order. Wouldn't count. That wouldn't count. Am I just not seeing the solution? Or is this one perhaps a little bit trickier? Well, let's look at it from this perspective. Maybe I assumed wrongly that this deserved to be up there. Yes, that was the mistake. We did want to see here what would happen if we just click this and there's nothing on it. Nothing happened. Look, Seth, if you're who we think you are, I'm not. If you are, we need to know who you people are and why you're doing this. Okay. This is all going to be pluses, so I imagine this is going to be somewhat dangerous. And yeah, I suppose if you have a decent amount of Sudoku variations that you've seen or done yourself, some of these solutions are going to be very similar to those kinds of puzzles. But we're not living to the direct Sudoku rules by any means. Here. This would become +2 in that direction. And +4 in that direction. We're kind of solving the same puzzles over and over again. And certainly that's something I expect in basically every puzzle game, is that you'll see variations on a theme, particularly when you're early in the game. If you solve one puzzle, they'll give you something that is just a slight variation on it that's a little bit more difficult. And I found that somewhat disappointing that there really was only 40 puzzles in the new version of Rethink, when clearly a lot of those laser puzzles could have evolved and there could have been very quick puzzles to get the numbers up to 100. Which there is something very attractive about advertising your game with at least 100 puzzles. And then you look at games like Hexels, where you easily can have 200-300 puzzles. You know, Freddy, how you keep saying my ability to see the future is useless? You're kidding me. That face can see the future? Meh, not really. Well, I've read your future, Freddy, and I know that you'll die. Really? When? Well, it's not very clear. It'll happen at some point. It could be here, who knows. Very useful data, Tim. Nailed it. Buddy, it doesn't sound like you have an ability. More like you're a good old fortune teller. Dude, you've read my mind. That's exactly what I told him. Notice how he squints there. No, I do have these visions when I focus on somebody. For instance, I can see Casey in the hospital after some shooting. Seriously? Yeah, I'm sorry. But you'll survive. But for Freddy, it's way more blurry than the rest of you. Is it possible you're just imagining all this? No, I'm not sure. And that would be my hope, certainly, is that the fuzziness we're seeing here is because our character is going to die fairly quickly, and then we'll be playing as this other group of 4. They've even kind of characterized this guy as somebody that you're not 100% going to be in love with. Okay. +3 could get me to a 7. But that is it. Even if I cheat quite a bit here, I'm not getting to a 9. So that tells me that is going up. And then we could go plus that, but then if that's the case, we're at 10. We would need this to get to 8. And then just be a matter of, are we getting blank here? Or are we turning it up? We only have one minus, so we can only really do one blank. And they're limiting us. We can't just put it here to get a blank here, which that's probably helpful. +2 + 5 gets you to 7. Then doing that, why do I have an extra piece? Interesting. So we're hit a point now where there's an extra piece. Let's just check it. Which I guess the question then would come down to, what would there have been an alternate solution? And probably there we go. We've found an alternate solution. And I guess I don't really want to go any further. Like, I'm gonna try and make these shorter episodes. I always start that way, and then the episodes eventually get longer and longer. But yeah, 30-minute episodes make sense to me. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.